But the first thing I wanted to start with was just really quickly something Chad posted, which super got me going. And it actually led to me watching 3 videos, because this post that Chad was telling us about was a video. And when I clicked on it and went to the Twitter, I don't know if you have it open, but when I clicked on it and went to that tweet, there's a thread and there's 3 videos, and each one is just as, if not increasingly, upsetting. And actually, the last couple times that it was just me and Chad, I did this thing called Excuse Me What, where I was like, dude, I found this thing this week that made me just say in my mind, like, excuse me, what? So basically, it's just like crazy things that you read that like you don't like. I don't even know how that's real, right? Okay. So I love that if you didn't notice in the Hangouts when Chad posted this, he wrote "Excuse me, what?" because that's what he was referencing.
Okay.
So anyways, yeah. So anyways, this definitely made me say "Excuse me, what?" just like Chad. The first thing that Chad posted, this tweet says, Trump's Secretary of State, America's chief diplomat, Mike Pompeo, said, "We will continue to fight these battles," basically referencing war on terror and like global war on terrorism. It is a never-ending struggle, ... until the rapture. So I also want to point out really quick, though, these comments were made in 2015. So this is when Mike Pompeo was just a representative from Kansas. He was not the Secretary of State. I don't want to just be like, oh, like this is the things that he says as Secretary of State, because it's not. He said plenty of bad things, in my opinion, already as the Secretary of State, but it's beside the point. So, and he's also clearly at like a church. He's at like a Sunday morning church service too. So when we think about politicians and we think about pandering, right? Like he's at a church on a Sunday morning, probably inside of his district at the time in 2015, right? Like he's not going to go up there and like, this just makes a lot of sense. I'm sure he is Christian too himself. But I'm gonna assume Chad would say, and this is why I say excuse me what to this, because like I almost want to ask you, what do you think? Like, how long is it gonna take before you feel like we're in a society where, I don't want to say that nobody believes in the rapture, but like where it's like not mainstream to be this way? Because do you feel like it's so mainstream to be someone who believes in the rapture? And like, I don't know.
I think it's hard. Well, so we have to define a few things, right? What is mainstream?
Well, I mean, I think the latest poll, like 80% of Americans still call themselves Christians.
Sure.
So at the very least, calling yourself a Christian is mainstream.
But I would argue to a large degree, right? The idea of being a Christian nowadays is much different than it was, 50.
Sure. And that's why I emphasize calling yourself. Yes.
Right. I mean, for example, the church you and I grew up in, right? When that church first started, it was very much like you wore a suit and tie. You were ostracized from the community if you didn't go to their school. You were, for lack of any other better word, it was pretty hardcore. It was a hardcore Baptist group. Right. Last time I went there, which was probably 6 or 7 years ago at this point, I saw things there that you would never see when we were growing up. Guys with sleeve tattoos, earrings, gauges, nose rings, even mohawks, like you name it. That type of stuff would not have been acceptable back then.
Yeah, but they're still giving a, saying until the rapture is still an applause line for sure.
Sure.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking you is, do you think those nose ring, mohawk, gauged people don't believe in the rapture? Like, of course they do. That's why they're there. It doesn't matter what they look like.
No, see, that's where I might disagree with you.
Okay, go ahead.
A lot of people that go to churches, I shouldn't say a lot, but a good chunk of them go there for the sense of community.
Agreed.
That's why a lot of people drunk the Kool-Aid down in Jonestown, right? They're not
Not a lot, but yes, like
they're not there to kill themselves
agreed.
and like just because they want to kill themselves, but they feel a belonging, they feel a sense of belonging, so they're more apt to agree to whatever everyone else is feeling or saying because it makes them feel good.
No question.
But back to the original statement, right? Religion, specifically Christianity, has been a part of human civilization for thousands of years. Safe to say, right?
Absolutely.
It's going to take a long time for it to go away. Right. Religion itself. I think in order for this not to be mainstream and to look a little more kooky, again, I'm not very good with my words today, but for it not to be normal, I think what has to happen is science, quote unquote, has to find a way to develop a culture in order for people to feel like they can aptly like a release from religion or this idea of religion.
Yeah, there's a lot of
that's the difficult part.
I've never thought about it that way. I've never thought about like making it a belief in such a way that,
because right now, and this is stuff that like,
how do you do that though? I don't know.
Sam Harris tries to address. And I don't know if you've read any of his books, but it's clearly written by someone who is a neuroscientist. But the point is that right now science is very cold. It's very dead. I shouldn't say right now. It has been, right? I think we're making strides to make it feel more comfortable. I think people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, people like Lawrence Krauss, people like that, even David Attenborough, right? Speaking on all these Planet Earth series and the Blue Planet series, and even people back then like Carl Sagan, right? They've understood the concept that people need to feel comfortable with science in a way that science isn't, because the fact of the matter is science is very much factual. It's very much right and wrong. It's very black and white, and a lot of people don't take comfort in that. So I think we're probably another 100, 200 years away from it being, of Christianity not being like this, where until the rapture isn't the applause line anymore. I do think we're
that's fair,
a little ways away from it.
Those numbers. We'll see. I don't think we'll definitely not see it. So
no, you and I won't. No, we'll be long dead.
Absolutely not. So that first tweet, obviously, the biggest thing that clearly triggered probably Chad and me, until the rapture part. Geez, but then when I clicked on this tweet, there's a couple more videos from this day.
Okay.
And once again, I want everybody to keep in mind it was 2015. It doesn't excuse what he said, what I'm about to tell you he said. But it wasn't when he was Secretary of State, right? And I think that does matter a little bit. So this is 2015 when he was congressional representative from Kansas. The next video is about, so one of the battles, so the tweet says one of the quote unquote battles Pompeo is going to fight until the rapture. And he says this in the video, opposing marriage equality. He's talking about the Obergefell decision, which I guess is maybe probably the cake decision if it's 2015. I'm going to go ahead and assume if it's about marriage equality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So dude, and then just in the video, it's so jarring. He's just like, he calls homosexuality just like, I can't remember. Evil. The next tweet, he says, and then the final tweet with the next video, he says, and here's Pompeo endorsing a prayer that called multiculturalism and homosexuality evil. What he said in the video was, we'd endorse perversion and called it an alternative lifestyle. So, he's just calling homosexuals perverts. It's like, oh, dear Jesus, come on,
So I haven't watched.
And I know that's ironic that I just said dear Jesus, but it's just, what are we like, can we just let people do what they want? Come on, they're not hurting you. Get over it, dog.
Well, the one I take actually more of a jarring stance on is this multiculturalism evil.
Yeah, what is that?
What does that mean? I didn't watch the video. What did he say? Something specific, or?
I watched the video a couple times, but this was a couple hours ago. I couldn't tell you exactly what he said.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that.
And I'll post a Twitter link down below in the description of the video for the podcast. But I don't know. All I remember is listening to the video. It was even worse than even multiculturalism. He just made So in the tweet, he makes it explicitly clear, and he's correct, that in the video he called homosexuality perversion, and like those people are perverts. Okay, which is already bad enough. Okay, in its own way. But there's definitely, he referred to multiculturalism as something else in the video. Mike Pompeo did, and it was just like, it was almost like worse. I don't remember what it was, but I'll be the first person to raise my hand, even though I lean left, to say that like mixing of cultures and mixing of races and mixing of people is difficult, but it's a goal that's worth achieving, right? And that's always why I've had a lot of respect for this country. We've never claimed that we're perfect. I wouldn't even claim that we're more free than other countries on this planet. But what we've tried to do and what's been beautiful is we've tried to like mix cultures together. We're an immigrant country. Since we've been founded, we try to mix people together and make it work. And like, that's the future. We've struggled with it. Look at our history, but you know, that's what makes us great. So it's just these statements are so jarring. And I just, in the age of Trump, I really hope that there's still enough people that believe that, like, look, at the end of the day, there's some human beings that suck, but most human beings, they're just trying their best, right? And like, we should all be investing in the kids that are going to turn into our future, who grow up in this country, and trying to, like, you know, just the divisiveness just sucks. I think everybody feels that way. So,
well, I think naturally you'll always have divisiveness.
You will,
no matter what.
Yeah.
I think what we need to be doing and what we need to be teaching is how to understand points of view. That's something that we're not very good at, I think.
Sure, acceptance, yeah.
Not acceptance. You don't have to accept it, right? But you have to understand.
Okay, not a good word.
I'm just
open-minded. Open-minded. No, you're right. Open-minded is probably better to use. We need to teach people to be resilient and to go ahead and listen to people that disagree with them, and that's okay, and like have like a respectful dialogue. You know, is that where you're going with that? Because I agree with that. And you know, there's too many people. I don't even think there's too many people that when they get into a conversation with someone they disagree with, they can't handle it. I think that people just avoid it. That's the problem. I think most of the time when even someone who's like super, I bet you if I took like the most super liberal, one of the most super liberal people and one of the most super conservative people, I just plucked them out of like groups of each of those people and sat them down face to face, and they talked face to face, they'd figure out how to have at least a conversation. They wouldn't agree, but they'd figure it out. I think the problem is we don't even try to do that anymore. We just live in this echo chamber, which we've talked about a lot on this pod. We live in this echo chamber, and we don't want to leave that space. And you can do so now, and that's dangerous. Like we need to get people face to face and discussing.
Well, what we need to be doing, I think, is that no matter what your political viewpoint is, no matter what your favorite political pundit is, right? Mm-hmm. We should always be watching and applauding when they invite somebody of a differing opinion onto their show, or when they invite somebody of a differing opinion to write on their website or their blog or their, be on their podcast or any of these things.
It needs to be done in an honest way.
It does need to be done in an honest way, sure, but you also have to understand that somebody who, and you can hear them quite clearly if they're using ambush tactics in a conversation, right? You can voice your opinion as well and say, that's not how we're gonna bridge any understanding, right? Again, I'm not asking for anyone to accept anyone else, because obviously you have the right to do whatever you feel. What I am asking you to do is that you at least try to understand.
Right.
And
there's people on all sides that try to play gotcha, and we all can tell when it happens. Well, I don't want to say we all, but I think me and Chad can tell when it happens, and we're just like, dude, that smells like bullshit. Quit that, come on. So the gotcha stuff is just, it just makes me a little upset. But alrighty.